There's a popular saying out there, the sky's the limit, meant to be encouraging words, but I don't want you to listen to that crap. It's a contradictory message to tell you that you can do and be anything that you want to be or do in this world, except there's a limit, the sky. But I'm here to say that there's a whole universe beyond that sky, and that universe is limitless, just like you. Now I'm here right in downtown Gainesville, Georgia with my faithful adventure buddy Pippin, and today we're undertaking a walk through the universe, headed to Uranus and beyond. The town of Gainesville has this hidden in plain sight joyride. It's a solar system hike that leads from the town center along a 2-mile trek over the hill and through the woods to grandmother's favorite planet/non-planet, Pluto. It's laid out at a scale of 1 Earth mile equal to 2 billion space miles. Me and my faithful astro buddy Pippin, we're going to walk all 2 billion miles, so you don't have to. Although you should, you really should. So we start here at the sun, this giant metal sphere. There's a few fun facts and labels that are slapped on each obelisk along the way. And just ahead we can already see Mercury. It's just across downtown Plaza, mere 25 steps for man, but 35 million miles for mankind. Now Mercury is a planet with no atmosphere, but it's full of genetically gifted vocals. Now that's a terrible Freddie Mercury joke, but it's already been a long 35 million miles. And suddenly we're at Venus. This is where women are from. It's right next door. Now Venus has 850 different surface temperatures. I don't understand what that means exactly, but if women truly are from Venus, then that would explain a lot, as I don't understand them either. So in that way, life is really starting to make more sense. And our home, Earth, it's so close. It's only another 25 steps. And Earth needs no introduction. We already know absolutely everything about our home planet. Just Google it. Trust me. Just as we know everything about the small moon that circles our night sky. It's made of cheese. We're only 50 steps away from the sun, and we've seen almost half the planets already. And here we are at Mars. This is where men are from. Now, Mars averages a negative 60 degrees Celsius, which according to my ex-girlfriend is slightly warmer than my heart. And there's a bit of space between Mars and Jupiter, which brings me to this thought. And I'm not sure what I enjoy better, large versions of traditionally smaller things or small versions of traditionally large things. Like, do I like the world's largest dresser more than I like the world's smallest super soaker? I really fancy them both. It's a hard decision. We're actually hitting an asteroid belt. Now there's an estimated 1 million asteroids along this belt, and all it takes is one big one to end everything. That's what she said. Our walk from Mars to Jupiter and its surrounding moons represents the biggest gap between planetary stops in our young journey across the solar system so far. In reality, it was just less than a 10-minute walk, but galactically, we're now just under 500 million miles from the sun. The further in space we go, we're less planetary dense out here. But here on Jupiter, there is no real surface. It's a giant ball of gas and liquid. Although Jupiter is over 300 times the size of the Earth, it's less dense. And all these planetary facts that I'm reading along the way, they don't really hit home. Like 300 times the size of the Earth. How big is the Earth? I don't really know. How big is 2 times the Earth? I don't know how big the biggest tree on Earth really is, much less 300 times the size of Earth. I just don't know what that means. That it is simply impossible for our puny human brains to have any kind of reference of these large and small scales. Gainesville is a cute town. This hike is beautifully executed. It winds through these charming city parks full of meandering paths and trees. Got these beautiful small creeks, bridges, loud YouTubers. Now Saturn is almost double the distance of Jupiter from the sun. Now we've traveled almost a half an hour and over 890 million miles from the warmth of the sun. And Saturn, again, another one, it's full of liquid and gas. It's starting to get really gross out here. The solar system hike isn't completely unique in the world. There are hundreds of scale models of various sorts, but as far as the hiking variety, there are roughly 30 solar system hikes in the US. The biggest one, the biggest scale hike, is in Maine, which is almost 100 miles. 4 to 7 day hike. And that's finally a number we can understand. 100 miles, that doesn't sound too far, until you consider how long it would take to hike it. Now my favorite thing about Saturn is that Uranus is right next door. And that's what we all came here to see. And the more I walk this trail, the more I recognize that this walk, it's more than just a simple fun afternoon activity. See, this is a learning experience for me. Not only about planetary fun facts, but about me, my life. And as I travel away my home, the more perspective I gather. And the densely populated beginnings of planets are like my schooling achievements. And beyond that, the space between planets are the routines that life falls into. And the planets break up the monotony, these new loves, new jobs, kids, and all the time in between, that's the space for learning, for introspection and wonder. And this hike is a great reminder that the journey is far more important than the destination. Now, isolated on this back path and nestled in the shade of these large oak trees sits Uranus. And at first glance, it is cleaner than I expected it to be. It's a bit smaller. And again, it's another giant ball of liquid and gas. Uranus circles the sun once over the span of an average human life. In other words, my anus circles the sun once a year, but Uranus takes 84 years. Now we move on to Neptune. Neptune is 1 billion miles away from Uranus. That's billion with a B. It's another number that is more out of touch with reality, and I have suspicions that the majority of us don't even understand what a simple million is. Millions, billions, trillions. We think about what it would like to have $1 million or how we'd spend, or more often we spend other people's millions or billions. And these numbers really get lost in translation. Here's a quick framing point. If you were to count to 1 million, with each number taking 1 second to say out loud, it would take just over 11.5 days. But to count to 1 billion, it's almost 32 years. And then 1 trillion, 31,688 years. About another 20 minutes away, Neptune is known as the ice giant. It's the first planet that was located through mathematical equations instead of the eye of a telescope. I can't even figure out math to balance my savings account, and these people found planets using numbers and brainfuls. What's bigger than the universe? Is there anything? I'm fascinated with the size and scope of the universe. Trying to understand how big the universe is beyond any actual comprehension. There's just no way, there's no thing in existence to give us an authentic reference. We can create things to scale, we can dumb down intellectual comparisons to create these relatable distances or familiar numbers and scope. In this pleasant jaunt through the city, it's a noble effort to try and tackle a reference point for us common earthbound organisms. So we're on the home stretch of our planetary investigation, and only Pluto sits beyond where we are. It's the sometimes planet, and Pluto is only half the size of the United States. Pluto happens to be my kind of planet. It's different than all the other planets. It has an elliptical orbit, while the others have almost perfectly circular orbits. Pluto sounds like a nonconformist or a contrarian. Way to be, Pluto. And Pluto was named by an 11-year-old girl. Now thankfully it wasn't a 12-year-old girl, or heaven forbid, a 10-year-old girl. The end of our galaxy walk ends just 20 steps from here. The signage points to Alpha Centauri's just a mere 4.3 light years walk from here. And I really enjoy my life here on Earth, so I think I'll end my walk in these here woods. How small of an organism am I? I think about purpose. Why do I exist? Why does any of this exist? And if I feel this small, imagine how a lentil or a strawberry or a mouse must feel. But they don't, they just exist. Without expectation, without worry, without comparison. In the grand scheme, they come to this space for a short time to experience life in the only way that they know they can. And they just soak it up, and come what may, they live. So thanks for hanging out with me and Pippin today, and if you actually made it here to the end of all things, if you found any value in this video, please consider liking and subscribing. And remember, when it comes to how many times one can say Uranus, the sky is not the limit. We're all better than that. And as always, I hope to see you out in the wilds.